going into the fourth quarter of 2024, a lot of folks are like, okay, hey, after the new year, hiring is going to be going crazy, and that wasn't ever going to happen, because the dynamics of what's going in the market aren't changing. Um, I know it probably feels like it was a decade ago, but a year ago we were still a year and 3 or 4 months ago, we were still in the middle of that kind of like rapid hiring pace. And then we started to see, as we were going into the holidays in 2024, it started to slow down a bit. Um, we weren't saying anything publicly about it yet because it was unclear as to what was a trend and what was new. And then you had the Boeing issues with the Max again, and it just kind of crumbled from there. Um, and so that created two main issues that everybody is still trying to dig themselves out of. So the first is the airlines overhired. Um, and I know people can go, well, how could that have happened? Well, hiring is done based on trends. So if you're putting, think about at the height of the hiring, 2021, 2022, 2023, um, United, Delta, and American were putting in the neighborhood of 200 people per month per carrier in class. So you were 600 to 700 pilots per month just between United, Delta, American. Um, and then if they offered 300 people a job offer to get 200 people to show up, right? They had numbers that they had, you can back that up from there. Of, okay, well, if I need to offer 300 people a job, then if I have a 60% pass rate on my interview, right, then I've got to do something like 500 interviews per month. Well, that becomes a freight train rolling down the tracks, right? You don't just stop that overnight. The 737 issue with Alaska Airlines, nobody expected that. It wasn't like somebody could see that coming. And so when you started to run into delivery issues, right, they still had this freight train of hiring rolling down the tracks where they'd offered all these jobs to these people. Like, think about, you have, and I'm coming up with an example number. This isn't like an exact, like, it's not an exact number, but it gives you kind of the idea of, if the recruiters knew, hey, I got to offer 300 people a class date to get 200 to show up, right? Well, guess what? They've got a large pool of people that are sitting there. That's why midpoint in 2024, you saw basically American and United pull back even interviewing, right? So you had a long stretch of time in 2024 where they weren't even bringing people in, basically. Fast forward to today, and look, of course, you can call up United, Delta, American and ask them how many people they have in their pools. They're not going to tell you, right? But you can run some math. When we take a look at clients that we've worked with and what date they interviewed and what date they were offered a conditional job offer and what date they're starting class and how many of those people there are, and you're running somewhere around 5, maybe 600 pilots per legacy carrier that are sitting in a pool waiting to start a class date. Think
Per
about that.
carrier. Per
Per
carrier?
carrier. Per carrier. Right? So, like I said, those are estimates. It's not like they're going to
Yeah.
come out and go, hey, here's the deal. But we've got people, I'll use American as an example, where they got an interview and a job offer in whatever, February or March or 2024, and they're starting class in January. Right? You can run the number out where you take a look at, how many clients are, and you can run some rough math and you go like, I don't know, 400, 600, 5, like it's in that range. It's not 100. I can
Jeez.
tell you that.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay.
Wait, I have a question real quick about that. So if you're at a carrier and they have this pool, right, of people that are hired that have not been invited to come to class yet, and as the pilots that come through their version of whatever ab initio type training program they have, and those pilots mature to then they're ready to come up to American or United or whatever, do they cut in front of the people that are in the pool, or do they get behind them, you think? Or do you know?
That is a great question.
That's why I asked it, James.
And so there's a couple of trends that we're seeing. So number one, it's not standard across the board. So each carrier is doing it a little bit differently. So certain carriers are basically pulling the people out of the pool in chronological order, meaning, let's say the three of us go into an interview and Dylan gets a job offer first, Max gets a job offer second, James gets a job offer third, then Dylan's going to get a class date first, Max is going to get a class date second, James is going to get a class date third. Certain carriers are, Dylan got the job first, Max got the job second, James got the job third. But we all agree James is way better looking, way more intelligent, and way more skilled than the two of you. So I go to class first, and then Dylan goes second, then Max goes third, right? So not everybody is pulling everybody in chronological order.
Mm.
So that's number one. Number two, we have seen a definitive increase in folks coming through the traditional pathway programs. But if you think about it, everyone knew over the past 3 years when these carriers were coming out and saying the fastest path to XYZ legacy is our XYZ program. Everybody knew that wasn't true, right? In fact, if you went to their flow program, it was going to slow you down. Well, they needed a situation like this to right that ship. Because at the end of the day, right, it benefits a legacy carrier to develop you through their farm league and bring you up. So if you think about it, the three of us decide to start a legacy airline, right? And we have a choice. We can hire a pilot that is an unknown after we've done what amounts to be a 1 hour interview, or we can hire a pilot that we put through our pipeline program and they've been in that program for 2 or 3 years, and I'm watching, are they showing up on time? Are they having any disciplinary issues? What are their check rights? Like, I can get all this data on you so that by the time you come to my front door, right, I have a very clear picture of who you are. The danger of that, though, is the carriers have been changing the terms for their programs. I have had direct clients that have reached out. I was accepted into the umpty-ump program, and then a year in, they changed the terms and kicked me out.
Wow.
So you get in. So people are thinking like, oh, hey, this flow through program, it gives me a guaranteed X. It doesn't. They can kick you out of the program. And one I remember off the top of my head was, I want to say it was like when they got into the program, the max amount of check ride failures you could have was 2, and they had 2, and they disclosed it properly. But then a year later, they changed it, and they said, no, you can only have 1. They didn't fail any additional check rides between when they got accepted into the program and when they were in the middle of the program, right? They didn't lie about it. They disclosed it. It was talked about during the entire process, right? But they just decided, hey, we're going to change terms of the agreement. And now guess what? You're not in the program.
Wow.
So these programs are going to increase in popularity because they have the ability to take a certain amount of flow from those folks now, and now they can make it look like the fastest way to XYZ airline is through this flow program, right? Okay, so that's number one, which really is about increasing their recruiting at their regional carriers.